Brandon, how we doing?
Good, man. We're good. We're good.
Glad to have you on here. Appreciate your time. For those of you watching, I'm not going to give Brandon justice on his introduction. I'm going to let him talk about his background a little bit. But I'm just happy you're here, man. But take it away.
I appreciate it. Like Evan said, Brandon Howard, I'm associate strength and conditioning coach at Texas Tech. I guess a little bit of my background. Prior to coming to Texas Tech, I spent a year at Ole Miss working under Paul Jackson, which was an awesome experience in itself. Paul's a great friend and mentor. Prior to that, I was at Utah State for 2 years with our current director, Coach Scholes, and then Coach Wells. He was the head football coach there. So that was kind of my connection back here to Texas Tech. Prior to my time at Utah State, I was the director of strength and conditioning and sports performance at Southeastern Louisiana University. So I spent 4 years there, did some really good things, was able to win some championships and all that, which was awesome. First chance of being a head guy there, which I learned quite a bit from. You never really know what you don't know until you're kind of put in a situation where you kind of have to figure it out on your own. Before that, I spent 4 years at Georgia Southern University back when we were still in the SoCon. So love that place, very special place. Did some good things there. I was a GA at Utah State from 07 to 08, and then did an internship at East Carolina University, which is where I played and did my undergrad. So I'm a little long in the tooth now. I've been in it a while, so
just a
kind of bounced around a few places. I used to feel like I was a young guy in this profession. Now I'm turning into one of the elder statesmen, I guess.
Y'all went and hired Jarrett, and now he's the baby, and he's coming to you with all these questions now.
Yeah, Jeremiah just recently joined our staff, and we had an opening here, and Jared had a kind of a connection with all of us, all the guys that are on staff here, and it was a no-brainer to hire the guy. Bringing another guy in that has director experience, obviously collegiate football playing experience. He worked at App State. He's been at LSU, Mercer. It was a great guy that a lot of us knew, and it was a very easy transition. We brought his name up to Coach Scholes, and when we said, hey, this is the guy we think would fit in well with us, he got to talk to him, and it was kind of an easy deal. So he's been a big help. He's been a good addition to our staff, and he's a big guy that throws some weight around too. So it helps to have that in there too.
He'll have some caveman strength on you a little bit, where he can just pick things up and move them too easy.
Technique will always beat him, though. That's what I tell him.
That's a fact. It will. Technique, mobility will always get him. You and I have talked before, but I never actually asked you. So, because I know you played at East Carolina, how, like, we all have our stories, our individual stories. I've got my reasons why I was like, hey, I'm going to go into strength and conditioning. But I do always ask and curious, like, when you were at ECU, you were like, yep, this is what I want to do. Like, and I'm going to go chase it. Because even when you were getting in it, because you're older than me, it wasn't like it was a glamorous position, and there wasn't just a whole bunch of it at the time like it is now, where it's completely saturated and it's everywhere.
And taking it back even further, my first true introduction into like organized strength training and strength and conditioning actually came back in high school. I was lucky enough, I went to a private school in Jacksonville, Florida, which is where I'm from, called the Bowl School. And our defensive coordinator at the time was like our strength coach. His name was Mike Barrett. This guy I still talk to is a guy that kind of really introduced me to my love of the weight room and training. So I was always a weight room guy, right? I loved it. It was something that I always looked forward to doing. And I thought it was just something I liked. And then, as I got into college and saw it even more organized and kind of was able to sit down and, ask questions to the coaches that I had. I had some great strength coaches in college. Jim Witten, who is a guy he was at Virginia Tech at one point, so he's a Mike Gentry disciple. And then John Greco. Greco was there my last 2 years of college. I was a very inquisitive guy, right? So it was always something about asking them, kind of wanting to understand why we were doing the things we were doing. And that's kind of how I was as a kid too. So, and the more I learned and the more I understood with those guys, they kind of confided that in me. They thought that this would be something that I would be good at, and I was like, I never thought about it. I initially thought I was going to go into physical therapy, right? So I was already an exercise science major. I had taken a bunch of the classes, and as I was kind of going through my playing career, those two over my 4 years kind of invested in me and said, you love this, you're inquisitive, you want to know why. I think your care factor is really high. I think you have the personality. I think it was some of those things that they saw in me that said that kind of related to them that this would be something that I would be good at. And, I really appreciated that. I never had anybody really come up to me and say, we think you'd be really great at something. And that was kind of what initially started me on my path. And then as I got done playing, there was a changing of the guard. So I actually I had two strength coaches that I were part of my playing career. And then I actually interned under Mike Golden. So Skip Holtz came in at ECU, Coach Golden came in, and I had the opportunity to intern for him to finish my undergrad. So I thought that was really, really great. It was an awesome experience. What I can say about Coach Golden is he really taught me that I really didn't know anything. I can come off and really know I'm 100%, right? It was one of those things where I thought I knew more than I did. I was a good player. I was a good weight room guy. I can figure this out. Not really knowing the intricacies of how to train and how to set up a room and how to do all these things. Like, I didn't know that. And he was one of those guys, he had to sit me down and say, look, you don't know anything yet. You need to learn, and it's going to take you some time. And, through some different trials and different tribulations and things, I really, as I continued progressing my career, I really appreciate what he did for me in terms of really making me understand that, yes, you can be great in lifting weights and you can be great at doing all this, but there are some intricacies involved in being a strength and conditioning coach that you don't know yet. And you need to open your mind up and listen and learn. And that was a big shot. And I really appreciate that because it allowed me to kind of further open up and learn and be able to take not only criticism, but take in the great information that all these different people that I had were able to teach me.
Yeah, man, I know we spoke briefly before this and talking to other coaches, and whether it be Shot out at UTEP or Corey Campbell down at Baylor, who I know you're familiar with all those guys. It's amazing to hear everybody has to go through that humility, that point, and it all happens at different times for different people in different situations. I know that I had to go through it in different trials and tribulations, because I think that's what it starts for everybody, or at least it started for me. It's like, hey, I like lifting weights. I think this is fun. I'm inquisitive. I want to, I think that this is important. I see the value in it, and you don't actually see here's how to be a coach. Here's how to run a room. Here's how to set up an actual program. Here's how to communicate, because communication, as we both know, sometimes isn't just the most innate skill. Some people have it and some people don't have it, and you have to work on it. And so it's fun to hear that basically everybody has to go through that, because I think there is a thought out there by a population that's like, well, these people are good because this is what they're supposed to be good at. They didn't have to work at their craft, that they didn't have the trials and tribulations, that it just moved easily for them. And that's just not the case. And especially with your story, I mean, ECU, and I'm not going to take the thunder, but ECU, Georgia Southern, and then Southeastern Louisiana, Hammond, America, like I mean, if you know about being in Hammond, America, or Natchitoches, America, like, or you don't know about that, you had to put your time and grind through it. What, like, was Georgia Southern different? Because I don't know Georgia, so was Georgia Southern different than Southeastern? Was Southeastern the same as Georgia Southern?
Well, like you said, when it's you get an opportunity, like I said, at Georgia Southern, I had a great opportunity there. My first full-time job, 2 hours from where I grew up. Having known about the program, it was awesome to get to go to a place that, I mean, you're talking Irk Russell, the Hambone, I mean, all the national championships, all the great things. Like, that was a cool place to go. I mean, if you really want to talk about a place that has tradition and winning, I mean, that was unprecedented at that level at that time. So that was really cool to kind of be around that and see the history. And you talk about a fan base. I mean, amazing people. They love that place. They love that school. So I really enjoyed that. And like I said, really got to, get into that program and kind of see the ins and outs and all that was pretty cool. Tom Melton was our director of strength and conditioning at the time. He's a Joey Basson disciple. And so he worked for Joey at Clemson. He had been at Colorado State. He'd been a bunch of other places. So what I really learned from Tom was kind of being able to really see and get inside of his mind on how we were able to run that entire program, because it was, we still had a small staff. You're FCS, so we had our head guy, 2 assistants, and a GA, which at FCS level, that's a pretty big staff.
That's a lot of people would feel for that.
So we were able to do a lot of good things there. And I learned a lot of the kind of West Side methodology that they kind of and used at Clemson, that he brought in there. So some of the how to break it up in kind of some dynamic effort days, some max effort days. We did a lot of different stuff there in terms of speed work. So I really got to see kind of how to really, really put everything together from 0 to 60, basically. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we did a lot of good things there. We were successful, and then I got an opportunity to go to Southeastern. Now everybody's like, "Oh, FCS, that's great," but there was not the money, there was not in terms of the program, and there had not been a winning culture and a winning tradition there for quite a long time. The program had been gone. They got rid of the program in the 80s. They had brought it back. It had only been back around for not even 10 years when I got back. When I got there, and we kind of were starting from scratch. It was a new football coach. It was a new staff. We were kind of having to reestablish a culture and reestablish a brand. And, we were able to kind of go from being what a lot of people would consider like a laughing stock of FCS and Southland Conference to in 2013 and 2014, we won 2 conference championships and made the playoffs and won the first conference championship since like the 60s, but what I learned there is I got to be able to write my own program. I got to be able to figure it out myself. But that was the easy part, right? I mean, you know this during your time, even as a director, it's you're put in situations and you're dealing with academics, you're dealing with boosters, you're dealing with all the different things in terms of compliance, budgetary constraints, trying to do supplementation and nutrition with limited money. So it teaches you how to, 1, time manage, 2, how to get things done with little. What we have, I showed up there, I talked to you about what we had at Georgia Southern. We had 2 full-time guys, a head guy and a GA. I walked into Southeastern and had myself and a GA for the entire athletic department. So, not only are you doing football, you're doing baseball, I'm doing men's basketball, I'm doing women's basketball, I'm doing volleyball. It's like you're doing everybody, so
it makes for some long days. I know that.
It does. I mean, when you're talking in the fall, when we trained on Sundays with football, that was the day they came in. So, I mean, when camp hit in August, I was in the office every day till December, so
till football season is over. And then everybody kind of thinks it's a breathe period, and that's not really a breathe period. Now it's time you got off season just right around the corner, right after break. And man, that's
season baseball, and then basketball's going through Christmas break. So I mean, there ain't a whole lot of time. But I learned a lot, and like I said, the lessons I learned and the things that I learned being able to kind of run that program and deal with all these different coaches in different sports. That experience is beneficial, in the long run. So I really am grateful for the time that I was able to spend in some of these smaller programs to start off my career, because I learned how to do a lot with a little, and how to, luckily I was able to finagle some things and get myself a full-time assistant and another GA by the last couple of years there. So that took a little bit of stuff off my plate. And, we just learning how to do those things and figuring out on your own and calling people and asking questions. And, that's all you can do, right? It's all you can do is just try to get what you need to get, or figure out a way to get it done. And you get it done.
Yeah, it's that trial and error, just like you talked about. It's that I really like that figure it out, what you're talking about, because especially in the situation that you walked in, and similar to the one that I walked in at Northwestern State, you don't have much help. And that's not a negative connotation, or it's you don't have anybody to really go to and say, hey, how is this done? Because they may look at you and go, it's never been done. And so now you're trying to snow plow through a plow of snow that you don't even have a clue what's on the other side. You're just trying to get as much done as you can.
And you just figure it out, right? You come up with a plan and you put that plan in front of the people that make the decisions, and you fight for what you need, and you're going to get it or you're not, or they're going to say, hey, figure it out another way. This is what we have. Do what you can do with this amount of money or this amount of people, or this amount of time. I mean, and you figure it out.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is the kids can't know, right? The whole point is what you do with your kids and what you're trying to get out of them, what you're trying to accomplish in terms of their physical and personal development, that should never come across, right? It's you're still giving your best of what you have to your kids. So you're making them bigger, making them stronger, making them faster, but then invest in them as people. I tell people all the time when they ask me, like, what's the most important part of what we do? And I think it's developing great people. The physical development stuff, that's easy. What can we do as professionals to develop great leaders, to great husbands, great mothers, people that we can send out into their communities, wherever they might be from? What can we do to make them, be great individuals? And I think the other stuff, the physical development stuff, will take care of itself.
Yeah, everybody has their medium or their ability to deliver a message. And ours just happens to be strength and conditioning, and mine is now through sales and working for PLAE and going and meeting people. But everybody has their platform or their medium to deliver their message. And I think, it's spot on and it's head on with what you're saying, and the fact that you're in a position now to use strength and conditioning, to use weights, to use that time to convey a message, and you essentially get to choose that message you convey or you teach. And as long as you're teaching to be a great human, be a great person, that's succeeding in life. That's succeeding at your job. Yes, it's a high stakes job. You got to win. You got to produce on the field. We all know that. You probably could count it up, but just at Georgia Southern alone, where I'm sure you worked with multiple programs, and at Southeastern, where you worked with multiple programs, you've probably touched close to 2,000 athletes in your life. And so more than, hey, this guy was able to squat or this girl was able to clean this, how many of those people ended up being, like you said, great fathers, great mothers, great brothers, sons, is invaluable. And I try to convey that to anybody I talk to when they talk about strength and conditioning. I said, that's just our platform that we get to deliver our message to kids.
Correct. It's like, I still have kids that call me. A lot of us in this field can say that. I have kids from Georgia Southern that I still talk to. I've got kids from Southeastern that I still talk to, from Utah State, from Ole Miss. everywhere I've been, you still have kids that you have developed relationships with. Some more so than others, but you still have kids that you're going to talk to. I had a young man that played receiver for us at Southeastern. That was a great player for us that I literally was on the phone with not even a week ago. A young man from Georgia Southern I was talking to, just had a baby, and talking to him, literally yesterday. So there's those things to me are so much more valuable. I'm going to forget 10 years from now what so-and-so power cleaner squatted, unless I find some old video somewhere on my phone,
right.
But knowing the types of kids that I've been lucky enough to come in contact with, that's the most important thing. And like I said, my hope is when my son's old enough that a coach can impact his life the way that I may have impacted these kids, or my high school coach impacted me. That's what I want. I want him to have that when he gets old enough, to be able to have to say, this coach or this person really impacted my life and made me a better person. I think that's huge to me. Ultimately, that's all I really care about.
There's no doubt, and we can talk at ends on that. When, because I did not know this about you. I did not know that at Georgia Southern that you dove into some West Side, because all of our relationship, you're a Hatch guy. I know you're a Hatch guy. I know you're 100%. Anybody that follows you on Instagram knows that you're an Olympic guy. And hey, I am too. I love the Olympic lifts. I had no idea that you got the opportunity to really dive into the West Side stuff. When did you fall into love with the Hatch stuff, or when did that happen? Because when I met you in 2012, you had already, you were heavily into the Olympic stuff. So when did that kind of transition happen?
I'd always kind of done the Olympic movements. I never really snatched or anything like that till I got to college. But in terms of actually getting introduced to the Olympic lifting, I actually was, when I was a GA in Utah State, we had a mutual friend of Mark Uyama. Mark was the head strength coach there, and everybody knows Mark with the Minnesota Vikings right now. Learned a lot from that guy. I'll tell you what, I'm talking about a guy that not going to give you anything, and you're going to have to earn everything when you work for him. I learned a lot from that guy in the year and change that I was able to work for him. But he had a mutual friend, a guy by the name of Richard Borden. So Richard is an ex-president of the NSCA. He is a physical therapist, strength coach. Richard and his wife Donna are both, like I said, they're both PTs. They lived in Arizona. They would come up to Logan in the summer, and they would stay in Logan during the summertime. Way too hot in Arizona, so they're an older couple, so they lived in Logan. Can't remember why they decided to come to Logan. I think they had some friends maybe, and it was like an older people community that they kind of lived in. Like I said, Richard had been a strength coach, Olympic lifting coach, so he would come in and would work with us. And Mark, when I was there, Mark said, "Tell me about Richard." And he's like, you really want to learn how to do the Olympic lifts and really understand the intricacies and how to coach them, how to teach them, how to watch them. You've got to train. I was like, "Oh, cool. Okay, I'm down for that." So I spent an entire summer, 4 days a week with Richard, and just training, lifting, like him coaching me one-on-one and teaching me all these things. And Richard has been an invaluable resource and friend for many, many years. But that was kind of where I started. So I was actually doing Olympic lifting and had never really competed. But I bought my first pair of lifting shoes. I was learning. You may not believe me, but I have pictures of me like only being able to snatch like 60 kilos, and it looked awful. awful. I wish
really hard to vision right now.
But I spent 2 years, and anytime Richard was there, that's what he lived for, man. We came in, we trained. So that was where I really got my first introduction. So I left Utah State. When I went to Georgia Southern, I'd kind of gotten away from it, was just kind of training. And I said, no, man, I want to start competing. Like, I want to start doing something just for me, right? I enjoy training, enjoy all that, but like I want to get some competitive juices flowing. So I was at a NSCA conference, and I can't remember if it was in Orlando or Nashville. I ran into Leo Totten. Everybody knows Leo, works on, and all his time with East Coast Gold. So I met with Leo, started talking with him, and he kind of was the first guy that kind of started helping me and would send me programs for free, which I'm 100% appreciative of. He was the first guy that would send me programs to do, and that was when I kind of started competing, right around 2009, 2010, and then kind of was going from there and training with him and doing some of that stuff. I wasn't affiliated, but I would send the videos and we would talk, and he would help me through a lot of things. So that was kind of my first true, strictly just doing Olympic movements, Olympic lifting, and to get ready to compete. Then obviously, as soon as I got to Louisiana, all in Louisiana weightlifting is Gail Hatch. So I cold called Hatch, and he's like, he loves him some strength coaches, so he wants you to come down there and see him. Went down there probably within the first couple weeks that I was in Hammond. And that was probably in October, November, and I started going down there a couple of days a week and making that trek back and forth to Baton Rouge, and did the Christmas meet there that first year, which is kind of where I met all you guys for the first time, when everybody kind of got together, and it just kind of kept going from there. And I still train pretty consistently. I'm not a 4 or 5 day a week Olympic only guy anymore. Joints can't quite take it, but I'm still trying to fight off father time and hang on with these young guys. At least show some of these young guys on our staff that I can still move some stuff around.
I think, unfortunately, all of us you're a little older than me, but not by much. But we all are having to pick and choose our battles and pick and choose our times that we really want to try to sling around weight, which, to be honest, really sucks. And I know that you know that.
It's just you don't quite recover like you used to. So
that's the truth. Catch one clean the wrong way, and a knee hurts or a back hurts, and it's just it's ridiculous. But so really one of the things you and I dove into, I think really at the same time, was that FRC stuff in 2015. Mm-hmm. Which I think 15 is when I got it. Maybe it was 16, but was able to go. And then I know you dove into it in 15 or 16 or sometime right around then. For me, it blew my mind, to be 100% honest, completely changed the way that I looked at things, trained things, and then specifically mobility, flexibility, stability. What turned you on to it? Was it Utah State? Was it being back at Utah State?
So we were at Utah State, and I guess I want to say this was probably 16. I want to say maybe 16, 17 in there. 16, I think, is when we had a young man that was going to see a chiropractor. And there was a chiropractor kind of towards Provo that he was working with on some stuff with his hips because he had previously played at that school in Provo. I don't like to say their name, but
Other school.
you know, since I am a Utah State alum, I do have my master's from there, so I gotta play that game. But he came in one day and we saw him kind of doing some of this stuff, and we're very, I would always say, Dave, Coach Scholes and our staff has always been kind of trying to kind of push the envelope and kind of be in the front of some of the stuff that's just kind of getting out there. And we'd never really seen this before. So we kind of went and we kind of asked him who this guy was. We went out to the clinic and a couple of different times, and we're kind of introduced to some of the basic cars and pails and rails and some of the basic stuff. And we were like, man, this is kind of a game changer. It's we spend so much time training externally, right? Everybody wants to train the external features. Well, the big thing that Dr. Spina talks about is training your internal. You're trying to train inside the joint. So you need to spend just as much time training inside the joint as you are training the external part of your body. So, over time, and I had ended up leaving Utah State at that time, but they all went and got certified and really started doing a lot of great stuff in a group setting. And we were the first, our staff at Utah State was the first to really kind of implement the FRC program in a group setting, and nobody was doing it. And we were still learning, right? It's just like anything else. We were still learning as we go. And over the last few years, right, we've continued to, kind of evolve and kind of what we're doing and how we're doing it with people. And I have people reach out to me all the time, about, how do you guys do this, all that. And what I'm going to always tell people is you'll never understand it if you don't put the time in and go learn it. You can't, it's not one of those things where I can just say, yeah, this is how you do it. Well, if you don't understand why or how to implement it into your program or into your daily schedule, it's not going to be something that's going to be, you're not going to be able to do it. If you're not going to dive all the way into it and use it, there's no reason for you to even try to get there. We just had a huge amount of success with our kids. And as they continue to see it and as they continue to see the improvements and the movement and the capability that you can, if you end up getting the joint better, right? If you get the joint to move more properly, if you get your brain to connect to that joint, to understand how it's supposed to move, where it can move. I mean, you're talking when you put yourself into a situation in a game type situation or you get twisted up or whatever, your body's going to understand what that end range is going to feel like, and you're going to save yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, and I'll never say all injuries keep prevented because we know that we've all been doing this long enough. But I think it's one of those things where what can we do and continue to evolve this and get it in there where these kids are going to put themselves in the best situation to stay healthy, right? You can't make the club in the tub, right? So we gotta do everything possible to get your horses to the race and get them on the field and be able to have one. If they know they move well, they're going to be confident, and everything they're going to do is it's going to increase all your other key performance indicators if your body can move well.
Right.
And that's kind of what we always look at.
I think it's been, I guess for me, because I got it in, so I went to FRC, I guess it was November of 16 is when it would have happened for me. And I started implementing it with K-State baseball, not to the level that Coach Scholes was doing at Utah State. Like I had it as warm-ups. I had it as small auxiliary lifts. We did basic stuff, but I was still trying to wrap my mind around it. And then also I didn't have a 100% kind of backing on it in other areas. But something that's been interesting to me, and maybe it's just because I've become more conscious to look at it, is it seems what Dr. Spina started, which I think is a movement, the openness of our community now to, hey, we'll train it in ranges. We'll squat with our heels elevated and go all the way down to the ground under load, or we'll get in these different positions that at one point we said, don't get in these positions because you're going to get hurt in these positions. And now there's this shift of thought process of, well, we can get in these positions and we can load them, whether it's internally by force or externally by resistance, because we understand that training at those ranges is exactly what you're talking about, is it's injury mitigation. And the simplest way that I explain it to people is if you ever do get stuck in one of those positions on a field or just falling off a curb and you're an everyday person, your brain doesn't go through this oh shit moment because it's in this position it's never been in before, knows how to react. It can guard itself if it needs to. But it's been interesting to see the evolving industry over the last 3 years? Because there's little things like, yeah, we can do this that 6 or 7 years ago somebody would have seen it and said, what the hell are you?
Yeah, I mean, I think this field will continue to evolve as we evolve, as we as professionals evolve. It's one of those things now where the science is starting to catch up. People are like you said, people are more open minded. I mean, we put a lot of stuff out on social media. We put a little bit. I wouldn't say it's a whole bunch, but we put some stuff out that people can see. And I mean, maybe we're having an effect. I don't know. I mean, our staff. I mean, Alan Bishop, obviously, Alan over at Houston is a guy that kind of comes from our crew and our tree. And Alan does an amazing job with Houston with basketball there. So it's maybe we're affecting some change. I don't know. I mean, I just know I believe in what we do and what Coach Scholes has done with our program and what our expectations are for that. I think that is a huge thing and something he stresses with all of us all the time. I mean, like I said, he and I have known each other since we were GAs together at Utah State. That's how Dave and I know each other, and he is by far one of the more forward-thinking guys that I've been around, and he's always looking to push the envelope. And I think that's helped us as a staff to kind of, I guess I would say, stay ahead of the curve. And that's a credit to him and his vision of what we can really do. And it's helped a lot. I've learned a lot from him immensely as not only just a guy that I've worked for, but just a friend, period, and another guy to bounce ideas off of. He and I do that all the time. And it's, we like when people call and ask and want to know what we're doing, and that's great. And it's one of those things where it's like, we've spent our time learning this. I'm not just going to give it all away, like put yourself in a position. If it's important to you and you want to learn about it, that's great. We'll help you. But go learn from the best in the field at what you're trying to accomplish. If I'm trying to learn how to be, I want to learn about mobility and being better movers, yes, I'm going to SPINA. I'm going to go take as much of this stuff as I can. If I'm trying to learn about, different rep schemes and different things, I mean, like we were really into what Charles used to do, Charles Poliquin. Coach Scholes would pay to have Charles come visit with us. Like, if you want to be the best in your field, invest and get the best people to come to you or go to them. I think that's the way that, we've got to continue to learn. It can't be what we've always done. This is what I did. This is what I did. And you can't be a copycat. Like, I think there's too much of that nowadays. I think, yes, this may work in this place, but it's not necessarily going to work in this place. Every school's different. Every group of kids is different. Every need is different. So I think we all as long as we all continue learning and continue pushing this field forward, I think we're going to get a lot more respect for what we do as professionals, as strength coaches, and then how people look at our profession and look at us. I think that is going to be at the forefront. I think that's what we need to continue to do.
I think without a doubt, rewinding a little bit on what you said, I think without a doubt, Coach Scholes, yourself, Alan Bishop, really, I'll just say Utah State, because at one point all of you were connected to Utah State. I'll say it because I'm not in it, had a massive influence on the industry at this point, because y'all were putting out small little details and this is what we're doing. And then you would put out somebody crushing, a 400-pound front squat or, a massive lift or all of these positions that at one point, like I said, don't squat knee, hips below knees type stuff. And then y'all are showing that you can do this. You could do this safely. I think it's 100% had an effect on the industry, because I don't think Dr. Spina set out to try to change strength and conditioning. He just set out to try to make people healthier. And
Correct.
We all just happened to stumble upon him and then said, there's a place for this and there's a way to do it. And you did exactly what you did at Southeastern and at Georgia Southern. And you said, we're going to make a plan and we're going to adjust that plan as we go. And we're going to figure things out because it's brand new territory. As we all have kind of done that have been exposed to the FRC. I do like the fact that you brought up, if you want to learn it, then you need to go learn it. You don't need to try to second channel or third hand learn it. Like, you need to, if it's going to be valued, go get it done.
Yeah.
Go
yeah. I mean, it's just like, you can read articles and that's great, but like, it's just like coaching, right? It's like, when did you become a better coach? The more time you spend on the floor. So the more time that you're around people and you can learn from them, physically learn from them face to face, I think that's more beneficial than reading any book or reading any article. I mean, not that there's not any great information there, but you still have to be able to apply it. So, I mean, and we still we've been doing FRC and FRC components in our training for, I mean, you're talking now for at least 4 years. Mm-hmm. And we're still bringing in other people, other professionals that have done it, are doing it, to continue to learn.
Has anybody on y'all staff, or have y'all kicked around doing the kin stretch stuff?
We do some variations of some of it already, and I mean it's a good certification. I think it's something that is valuable because it does give you some aspects of the group setting, because that's kind of what it's more set up to.
Right.
But no, nobody on our staff currently has the certification, but we've had some introductions to it from other people.
I know. Excuse me. I think Texas A&M had their athletic training staff, and I think you may have told me, I can't remember. Are y'all's athletic training staff also on the FRC train? Are y'all working? Are they using the assessment FRAs, or?
I don't think they're using it. We've talked about it, and they know kind of what we do, and we've had them in and just talked about what we do and why we do. But they aren't currently doing anything purposely with that. We kind of are assessing guys on a need basis and kind of going from there as we see guys and what maybe they need individually. So we try to kind of set that up as we see our guys go.
I got you. What's the future hold for you, man? Like what is your end game? What's your goal? Like I have to ask that. Like, you want to go back to being a director? Do you like?
Yeah, I think when the right opportunity presents itself, yeah. I mean, my ultimate goal, yeah, I'd like to be a director again and kind of take what I've been able to learn and what I've absorbed from Coach Scholes and Coach Jackson and all those guys that I've worked for since my time. You know, I think there's some. I think my program has continuously evolved and has evolved even from those days at Southeastern. You know, it was very blanket kind of program in terms of what we had because we didn't have a lot, right? We had dumbbells and barbells and pull-up bars. I mean, that's what we had, right? So that's what we did. But what I was able to learn from Paul Jackson and from Scholes and from just even some of the other coaches that I've been able to talk to over the last, I want to say now, that was what I left there in 2016. So over the last 4 years plus, you know, I think my program has really kind of evolved in what I would do later on. But yeah, I'd love to have the opportunity to be a director again. You know, that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And when the right opportunity presents itself, it will. You know, I'm not going to be throwing my name out and calling everybody and doing all that. Like, you know, if you want somebody who's going to do a great job and is going to hopefully be on the forefront and continue to evolve the program based on what's coming out in the science and what's coming out in sport performance, I mean, that's kind of my ideals. You know, I want that opportunity, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, you know, I'm going to keep grinding away and coaching and doing what I've been doing for the last, 13 years now, or how long it's been, I can't count. But yeah, if the opportunity presents itself, 100%. Yeah, that's where my mind is going.
What I asked this to a couple of people, and just because I'm always curious, because I tell everybody, self-reflection, biggest issue that I ever had, the biggest problem I ever had is I didn't put enough value on developing the human, like the relationship. I wanted to develop the program. It was just from being young and arrogant, and I never just got out of my own way and realized that if you can get up and get a kid to buy in, that's as important as the program. But the reason I asked that, you got to be a Southeastern. You are a top 10 program. You kicked the shit out of me 4 times. I do remember all, and that was just in football. That wasn't the other sport. And you were at Georgia Southern, high-profile position, like high-profile school, a lot of success. Utah State, Scholes built something. Like, is there something you're seeing at every stop when you're successful? And then now you've been at Texas Tech, and it's an above-average program that's had some tough years that wants to get back up to the premier crop of the nation. Is there something you're seeing at all of those stops that is, I guess, the same outside of we've got really good talent?
Well, I think you just, what I always say is you're going to take something from everywhere, right? Everywhere you've been, you should learn something, right? So in terms of like, trying to make sure I phrase this correctly, you know, what I would take or what I would do from any of the programs I've been in, I think it kind of goes back to what I said earlier, is like, you got to develop a culture, you know, and develop the kids to kind of get your program to run the right way. And I think when you have those expectations and you have those core values, like Coach Wells talks about, we have core values for our program. I think when you initiate that and you establish the core values from day one, and you establish what the relationship is going to be between football, between the weight room, between the athletic training room, I think when you establish that culture, that's when you win. Winning programs have a culture that's established and is going to continue on. Luckily, if I look back on every program that I've been at, there's years here and there where you're going to go up and down, but all those programs have been successful and can have continued to be successful because of the culture that was built previous. I look at Georgia Southern, right? That culture's been there, right? That culture's been there. It's going to continue to be there. Southeastern, we were able to build a culture starting in 2012, and even though the staffs have since changed, that winning culture has been consistent. They're still consistently winning now with Coach Selfo and that staff that's there now. And from at Utah State, it was one of those things I had already gotten there, and that culture had already been established. Coach Scholes, Coach Wells, they had established that culture before I got there. And that culture is still continuing to win now, obviously, since we've left. And now what we're doing is trying to reestablish Coach Wells' vision for this program. And that goes into the core values and the plan to win that he has put in place that goes from him to Scholes to myself and the rest of our staff. I think that's one of the things that kind of is continuous through all those programs that I'm lucky to be at. And I digress, and I say I miss Ole Miss. That was one of the things there too, where that program has it set, right? There's some changes that have gone on there, and I'm hopeful that they're able to continue to get back on the path that that Coach Jack helped to put in place there. The no days off, the things that he did there. I mean, he did some amazing things there with some amazing players. I think you have to just continue to, once that culture's set, there's nothing that can change it. You do what's right for the culture of your program, and whether you want to be there or not. If you don't want to be there and follow the way, boom, get out of the way, because the program's going to keep doing this. Right? It's not the culture and the core values are not going to change. So I think that's what you've kind of looked at in all those programs is why they've continued to be successful. That culture's set, and you don't deviate from it.
It makes sense. I don't disagree with any of that. How has been, because something that I had very minimal experience with, how has been having a family, because you started a family in Hammond, America, if I'm not mistaken. Is when you got married
in Utah. I got married in Hammond, yeah, and then
gone Hammond to Logan to Oxford to Logan. Or I don't even know your track, but
it's been way too many. So I got married. I got married to my wife. We were still in Hammond. We got married in May, and I left in July. So the first 6 weeks we were married, we weren't even living together because the talks of me moving was already kind of in place. So we moved to Logan. So that was the first time my wife and I lived together. And I would say this, we had a long distance relationship for 3 years. Bless her heart. She drove from Florida back and forth once a month when I was in Hammond to come see me. I tell you, I can't talk about my wife enough, because I tell you what I put that woman through in the last 4 years, I don't know another woman who can deal with that. But so we got married. We left in July, moved to Logan, got situated there, went through the 2017 season. Wife got pregnant. 2016 season. My wife got pregnant. We had our son in October of 17.
Oh, right in the middle of football season.
Right in the middle of football season. Yep. So he was born October of 2017. So he was about 3 months old when I got the phone call from Coach Jackson to move to Oxford. So my wife had a 3-month-old baby, having to pack our whole house up and move to Oxford, Mississippi. So, so we're in Oxford, doing good. We buy a house. We're getting situated. Then Coach Scholes calls me and offers me an opportunity I can't refuse. I can't turn down. So I said, "All right, honey, we're after 1 year in Oxford, we're moving to Lubbock, Texas." So now my wife is actually pregnant with our second child. So we had a baby girl that's due in June, which is not necessarily the greatest time, but it's a little better than August or September. Yeah. But we have a little girl that's due in June, and it's like I said, she's the rock, man. She is having to move basically 3 times in 3 years with a young child. I can't put into words how thankful I am for what she's had to endure. When I was at Georgia Southern, I worked with Brent Davis. Brent is the offensive coordinator at Army. Okay. Now, Brent, I remember him telling me, he said, "You'll know, like when you decide who you're going to marry and a woman that can deal with this profession, you'll know for sure. You'll know." And I said, "Okay, I get that." And then, her being able to not only deal with our relationship for 3 years before we got engaged and got married, and then all these different places. I mean, she's been an unbelievable rock star to kind of go with me on my dream and my career path. And, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to repay her for what she's had to kind of endure, and packing and moving and doing all the things that she's done. So, the hardest part I would say is like just wanting to be there all the time, right? So like when you're busy, when you're in camp, like going days without seeing your kid, when he's little, because he's, you're leaving early in the morning and he's going to sleep before you get back. Some days when he was really little, that was kind of the hardest part. Now he's a little older, so he's usually awake, when I get home in the evening. So that's been good. And I can't, obviously with the extended breaks that we've had recently, I've been able to see a lot more of them, which I'm not upset about, to be honest with you. So, and he's 2 now. So, I mean, it's just new stuff every day. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, in terms of having family, some people think you can or can't have family. I was like, there's no way I would never not have had a family, and I'll figure it out as I go. It's just like everything else I've had to do in my life.
I think and you know what? That's the theme of this entire conversation, is figuring it out. And I admire it, because you probably remember, at least the name Lane Burroughs, who was the baseball coach at Northwestern State, and he's now at La Tech, head baseball coach. I remember his first meeting he ever had at Northwestern State. His first bullet point was the power of FIO, and it was to figure it out. And basically he was telling freshmen, everybody, freshmen, juniors, seniors, didn't matter. Before you start calling coach and before you start calling mom and dad, why don't you actually try to figure it out first? It'll go along with your life. And I'll never forget him saying that, because it stuck with me. It's almost to the point of one of my pet peeves when somebody doesn't try to figure it out on their own. It's the power of it is immeasurable.
Yeah, I mean, and if you've exhausted all your options, then ask for help.
Right.
But you can always, like I said, don't ever feel like you can't ask for help, but you better have exhausted all your options first before you come dialing it up.
100%.
Because I would rather you figure something out. If I'm in a position and I give somebody something to take care of, and they bring it to me and it's like, okay, well, this isn't what I wanted. Okay, well, then we'll fix it. But at least you're not like run all over the place like a chicken with your head cut off. Like, this is what you thought I wanted. You're figuring it out. You're doing it. I would rather you get it done and correct it, because we can correct any of that stuff, as opposed to just like not doing it. So
you and I, that makes 100% sense. But well, man, that's an hour's worth of long conversation. I appreciate that, man. That's
you got it, man.
And I appreciate it for 100%. And hopefully I know I'll be back out in Lubbock as soon as they release the coronavirus lockdown or whatever we're in right now. But, whatever we want to deem to call it. But I will be back out in West Texas, and we'll have to go get lunch or get dinner sometime. Maybe I'll come in there and embarrass myself and try to lift weights with you and Jared. I'll just get my own rack down at the end and not.
Come on, we got plenty of them. Come on now, you know that anytime. You're welcome down in old Lubbock anytime, man.
I appreciate it, Brandon. We're gonna catch up with you soon, and I appreciate it once again, man.
All right, Evan. Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me on.